welcome back to another episode of The Gentle Perspective. I'm your host, Roneisha Gentle. Please click the subscribe button below, leave a like, and of course, feel free to comment. We are actually in part 2 of Indefinite Recess. Previously, we talked to Jabari Wellington, a chemistry teacher of Wolmer's Boys School in Jamaica. In this episode, we have a very special guest who will be telling you a bit about the structures that Belize has in place and possible implementations, and also certain strategies that can be taken in order to proceed with face-to-face learning whenever that time comes. So in order for me to be fully comprehensive on this matter, I actually decided to gain some insight from Senator Elena Smith, who is also the president of the Belize National Teachers Union. She spoke about the challenges that teachers are facing, the newly formed task force, and possible ways forward, and even some challenges that are involved with remote learning and how best we as a country can move forward with face-to-face learning whenever that actually comes to fruition. Additionally, once I heard the news that a task force had been implemented here in Belize, my first thought was, how was it going to be fully comprehensive to ensure that all stakeholders were accounted for and each niche within our society was taken into consideration? Well, here's what Senator Smith had to say on that issue.
Our role as BNTU is to work along with these other stakeholders to ensure that when a date is determined for reopening of classes for face-to-face sessions, that all of the aspects that we should be looking at in terms of keeping our students safe, our teachers, our parents, in terms of the schools having the necessary materials that they would need to continue keeping the schools and the students safe, I should say, and sanitizing and that sort of thing, that all of those things are in place, that our teachers, our students, and our parents would be comfortable and would feel secure in knowing that when their children return to the classroom, when our teachers go back to the classroom, that we all would be safe, so that we don't get to a point where we reopen and then a week or a month later we have to close down again.
Has the task force had its first meeting as yet?
Yes, we've met twice already.
Okay.
And what we did at the last meeting, we put ourselves into groups, because we have to be looking at different areas, in terms of the safety, and what are the things that we need to do in terms of surveying our parents, our teachers, our students, and then looking at all of the other aspects on the ground, whether the schools are ready.
Following suit with every other aspect of our governance and policy here in the Caribbean and elsewhere, COVID is no different. Yes, people will politicize it. Senator Elena Smith gave her sentiments on that. Now, Senator, I know the BNTU and the ministry has bucked heads sometimes in the past, but this situation definitely requires a hands-on approach by everyone. What are your sentiments and concerns in moving forward to ensure that you work together, you communicate effectively, and you ensure that the best interests of our students are taken into consideration?
Very good question. And you may have seen a lot of comments out there on Facebook and everywhere. Everybody knows about BNTU's business. And I think what people are failing to remember or to understand, that the previous government had been in place for 13 consecutive years. And so it wasn't that you had an election and then a new government came in, and so you had to give them a chance to a few months for them to settle in, and then you deal with your matters. This was the same group of people moving from one election to the next, and so there was stability there, and so these persons knew what was happening from one election cycle to the next. So you were not dealing with or meeting with new people. It was the same people you were meeting with. So that should have made it easier, because you would have just continued the work. For some reason, there were points along the way where things got very difficult, and we were unable to see eye to eye, and we were unable to reach agreements. But as a union, We do understand that governments change and we can have a new government every 4 or 5 years. And so we have to work with any government who comes into power.
Mhm.
The difference with the past 13 years and now is, as I said, it has been the same government. And so we have been working with them. So we knew, what was going on. This government now just got in a few months ago, and we are meeting with them already. We've had a few meetings with them already, and we have made it very clear to them that we are telling you what we told the previous government. So when they first came into office, the first term when they came in, they knew that BNTU was willing to work with them and we were willing to collaborate. As long as we are able to get that respect from them and they are able to listen to us, we are willing to work with them to resolve matters. And we've told this government, this new one, know the same thing. Not because you are new and you're just coming in that we will give you any slack. What we will do is to be fair to you and give you a few months to settle in, and get a handle of what has been happening, what is going on, meet with us and hear from us what our concerns, and then we'll give you some time to address those. When that time comes and we feel like we have given you enough time and you have not addressed it, then we will do what we have to do.
To that end, where do we go from here? And I'm not talking only locally within our respective Caribbean countries, but regionally for matters such as CXC and CSEC that involves a regional aspect and outlook.
Right now, our students are still not able to go to the classroom to do certain work that they need to do at the school. So, for example, you know that we have certain these SBA components.
Mhm.
Some of these SBAs require that you are in a lab. Um, you may be doing, for example, technical drawing or those types of subjects that you have to be at school to do that. Agriculture, and it's a bit unfair to our students to expect that they would be able to sit this exam as if it's normal time. And it seems as if those CXC, the council is adamant, is hell bent on doing the exams this year. And while the countries across the Caribbean have been saying to them that, listen, you can't continue this way because we already had a lot of issues with CXC last year,
Mhm.
not gotten proper responses to address the concerns that were shared last year,
Mhm.
and now you want to continue again this year as if as if everything is okay.
Right.
So the concern is the fairness to the students, noting what they have been going through and how these students who are now in fourth form would have been the ones who would have missed out a portion of their third year and now their fourth year.
And as a teaching professional herself for over 3 decades, Senator Smith also gave her perspective on, yes, COVID and education. Here's how that went.
That's the difficult part because when we got our training, we didn't get training in using technology to this extent. And so some of us may have learned, on our own, as your time go by and you get involved and you might learn to use a computer, you would not have learned how to use Google Classroom, for example, how to be able to check our work on a WhatsApp, circle something and say, "Oh, fix this correction," that kind of thing. We didn't learn those things. And so even some of our younger teachers didn't learn that. But
Mhm.
they are more into technology. So the younger teachers are not afraid to try new things
Mhm.
and are not afraid to make mistakes.
Mhm.
Us older folks, on the other hand,
Mhm.
we are afraid that if we touch the wrong thing, we're gonna lose everything and we can't find back the work again and we lost the worksheet. So it's a little bit more difficult for us who are older teachers who have not been accustomed to using technology at this level.
Now, do you think the physical time away for so long from the classroom will lend way to possible long-term consequences for the learning and the development of our students?
Most certainly. I mean, we know that our young people are learning wherever they are. But we are also aware that we have some students who really and truly, due to no fault of theirs, don't have the necessary support at home. And so they are not engaged in any kind of learning. They might be out playing, doing other things except reading a book or doing some work. So those students would be the worst affected.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that all will be lost, because as I said, they would be learning other things outside from schoolwork, which would be helpful to them, as they go about in society. We don't want that they are learning the wrong things. We hope that this time is not being used for that. But again, there are certain things that are beyond our control, that we can't determine how these children would be engaged, and that's a sad part.
And then you mentioned something very interesting, that even though they may not be learning the scholarly aspect of education, they may still be picking up on maybe other skills, etc. Now, do you think that the TVET industry should have been included in the task force?
Well, that's a good question, because that institution plays a key role, a critical role in the education system. But note as well that we do have ministry personnel who at any time could bring those persons in, if there's a need to get expertise from them.
Now, this two-part episode was extremely important to me because I wanted to ensure I was including both aspects, not only in Jamaica where they have already implemented face-to-face learning once more, but here in Belize where we're currently at the drawing board and we're trying to find new solutions and practical ones at that in moving forward to ensure that our children are not left behind. It's going to be a long road and a very tedious process, but I do believe with great diligence and key measures taken into consideration, we'll be just fine. But that's just the gentle perspective. Remember to click the subscribe button below, leave a like, and of course comment so we can keep the conversation going. Until next time, and until episode 6, stay safe.